Hey everyone, welcome back. If you've been grinding Wuthering Waves lately and wondering which characters are actually worth your resources, you're in the right place. Today, we're diving into our freshly updated tier list for version 2.4. Yep, as of July 2025, we've got the full scoop on who's dominating the battlefield right now. Whether you're pulling 5 stars or sticking with those trusty 4 stars, we've ranked the best picks for main DPS, sub-DPS, and support roles so you can build the most powerful team possible. We're updating this list daily, so if anything changes, like buffs, nerfs, or surprise meta shifts, you'll find it here first. We've spent hours testing and analyzing each character to make sure these rankings are spot on. So sit back, relax, and let's go through which resonators are carrying hard and which ones might need a little break on the bench. Let's get into it. I'm quickly moving on to the video, and I'm ranking characters in Wuthering Waves. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of tier list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching.
My friends, only 0.1% of viewers subscribe. If you like this type of content, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you in advance for your support.
The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Lingyang, Yangyang, and Taoki. And just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, welcome to the land of disappointment. Also known as the C tier, these are the characters that could have been iconic, but instead took a detour straight into mediocrity. Let's break down who's chilling at the bottom of the Wuthering Waves character rankings, and more importantly, why they ended up here. First up is Lingyang. On paper, he looks like he's ready to take on the world, a 5-star character with all the flair. But when it comes to actual gameplay, he's being completely overshadowed by his fellow standard 5 stars, especially the ones that bring that sweet area of effect destruction. And the pain doesn't stop there. Lingyang currently has no dedicated Glacio, ice element support to boost his performance. Combine that with his below average damage compared to other main damage dealers, and you've got yourself a character who's more meh than majestic. Now let's talk about Yangyang, our beloved starter character and everyone's first 4-star. She gets points for trying, honestly. Her aero-based grouping abilities and utility are decent at first, but as soon as you unlock better sub-damage dealers that actually boost your team's damage output, Yangyang kind of just vanishes into the background. She's like the tutorial character who never quite makes it past the tutorial vibes. And finally, we have Taoki, who actually had a small glow-up thanks to the introduction of Jinsi. She found a spot as a sub-damage dealer by helping amplify resonance skill damage while doing quick switch hits with her resonance liberation. Sounds promising, right? But here's the catch, her kit is all over the place. Taoki suffers from split scaling between her forte, her unique skill tree, and her shield mechanics. If her scaling had been more consistent across her entire kit, she could have been a fantastic hybrid character that supports while still dealing solid damage. Instead, she's stuck somewhere between roles, not really excelling at either. Sad, really. Stay tuned though, because the B tier might actually surprise you. The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Jianxin, Aalto, Yuanwu, Chixia, Baiji, Yuhu, and Lumi. Okay, now that we've escaped the disaster zone that was the C tier, let's stretch our legs a little. Welcome to the land of the almost good. The B tier in Wuthering Waves is where characters try, sometimes succeed or succeed, but often fall just short of greatness. Think of this as the tier of solid picks with a few rough edges. Let's get into the lineup. First, we've got Jiakengtin, the ultimate multitasker. She's like that friend who insists they can DJ, cook, and play the guitar all at once. Jiangxin can serve as a main damage dealer thanks to her grouping and area of effect damage. But wait, she can also buff resonance liberation damage through her outro skill, making her a decent sub-DPS too. The downside, she ends up being a jack of all trades and a master of none, kind of like Spectro Rover. In a meta where specialization is king, Jiangxin's flexibility ironically becomes her weakness. Speaking of rovers, Rover Aero is complicated. They have one job, spread negative effects on enemies like a bad cold. And to be fair, they're really good at it. The problem is, there's hardly anyone in the current character pool that can actually benefit from those debuffs. As of version 2.2, Rover Aero is stuck in this weird limbo, supportive but underwhelming when it comes to actual damage. That being said, future updates might give them the synergy they need to finally pop off. Alto is your local aero sub-DPS who's decent at dishing out damage and buffing aero attacks. He doesn't ask for much and delivers what's expected, but when you start comparing him to someone like Mortefi, who can deal impressive damage even while off the field, Alto starts to look a little bland. He's reliable, yes, but in this game, you want characters who can punch through enemies while sipping coffee on the sidelines, and Alto's just not there yet. Now let's talk about Yuanwu, the electro sub-DPS with some interesting tricks. He throws out coordinated electro damage from off-field, again, Mortefi vibes, and can even chip away at the enemy's vibration strength, that pesky toughness bar under certain enemies. But there's a catch, his debuff only works if enemies are standing inside his circle of effect. And let's be real, these enemies moonwalk all over the place. If they're not playing fair, Yuanwu's utility drops significantly. Chixia brings the energy and firepower of a classic high mobility DPS. She's agile, easy to control, and can put pressure on single target bosses if you know how to dodge and reposition well. But once she's surrounded by a crowd of enemies, things start to fall apart. It's like showing up to a dance-off but not knowing what to do when 3 people jump in at once. She's fun to play, but a bit too fragile in chaotic fights. Baiji is our go-to healer when Verena and Shorekeeper are off doing better things. She can dish out burst healing with her resonance skill and resonance liberation, and even gives a 36-second healing and buff window to the next character on field. With Inherent Skill 1 unlocked, she can even offer an attack boost to whoever picks up the floating Euphonia from her spectral buddy Yutan. Sadly, the party-wide synergy stops there. Her buffs only apply to the next character that swaps in, which makes team rotations awkward and limits her effectiveness compared to more flexible healers like Verena. Finally, we have Yuhu, the RNG queen of healing. On paper, she's a hybrid healer, support with buffs for days. In reality, she rolls a virtual dice every time you need something specific. Yes, you can manipulate some of her effects, but the randomness still messes with your rotations and consistency. And her outro skill? It only buffs coordinated attacks, a mechanic only a handful of characters currently use. She's niche, unreliable, and just a little too chaotic for the current meta. Stay tuned, because the A tier is where things start heating up, with characters that aren't just functional, but actually fun. The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Calcharo, Encore, Rover Spectro, Rover Havoc, Cantarella, Rover Aero, Mortefi, and Danjin. Ah yes, the A tier, where things finally start to get exciting. These are the characters that make you feel powerful, but still have a few quirks that stop them from being totally busted. They're not S tier gods, but they're definitely the ones you'll see dominating the battlefield when built and played right. Let's dive into the almost elite roster of Wuthering Waves and talk about the MVPs of consistency. First up is Calcharo, the edgy electro swordslinger who finally got his glow up thanks to the introduction of Yin Lin. As a main damage dealer, Calcharo already had solid electro damage output through both his resonance skill and liberation, but now, with a dedicated sub-damage dealer to back him up, Calcharo can reach a whole new level of destruction. You put him on the right team and he'll melt enemies faster than your phone battery on max graphics. Next is Encore, the firecracker. Literally, she's your go-to main damage dealer for fusion element explosions, and once she activates her Cosmos Rave state, it's party time. We're talking massive fusion damage in a short window. The catch? She's got zero crowd control during that state, so if enemies start punching back, things can get dicey fast. She's kind of like a glass cannon at a rave. Looks cool, sounds great, but one hit and she's wobbling. Rover Spectro continues the trend of do-it-all characters, offering a bit of everything. Their outro skill has that flashy time stop moment that makes you feel like a boss, and their resonance liberation can hit surprisingly hard. Spectro Rover flirts with both main and sub-DPS roles, but in a meta that rewards specialization, they get a little lost in the mix. Still, if you like versatility and clean animations, they're more than serviceable. And then there's Rover Havoc, a real contender for underrated damage king. They activate their Dark Surge state easily and dish out serious burst damage. But here's where it gets spicy. Their basic attack becomes a wrecking ball during Dark Surge, so dodging and timing become key. Throw in a special interaction with dreamless enemies, and you've got a character who can nuke both single targets and mobs if you've got the reflexes. Let's talk about Cantarella, the queen of Havoc utility. She's basically a Swiss army knife in stylish clothes. Not only does she provide resonance and Havoc damage amplification, but she also offers some healing and sustain, all while delivering off-field damage with coordinated attacks. She's the reason Mono Havoc teams exist, and she even gives you the flexibility to ditch a support and run a second sub damage dealer instead. Stylish and strategic. Mortefi may be a 4-star, but don't let that fool you. This guy punches way above his weight. His kit allows fusion-based coordinated attacks to trigger with every strike, meaning he's contributing damage even when he's not on the field. And if your main damage dealer is a heavy hitter, literally, Mortefi's value skyrockets. He's cheap to build, easy to obtain, and always happy to carry your team from the sidelines. And finally, we've got Danjin, the ultimate free-to-play glass cannon. Her damage output is impressive, and she feels great to use, until you realize she's draining her own health like a vampire on double shift. If you've got the reflexes and enemy awareness to manage her HP, she's a top tier pick. But if you miss a few dodges, well, Danjin's going to be lying face down wondering where it all went wrong. High risk, high reward, and we love to see it. Stick around, because next up is the S tier, where the real game changers live. The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Jiyan, Yinlin, Changli, Shangli Yao, Rochia, Lupa, and Sanhua. Alright, buckle up, because we've officially made it to the S tier, where the Wuthering Waves elite reside. These are the characters that break damage charts, redefine metas, and make you question why you ever settled for anything less. Whether you're speedrunning bosses or flexing in endgame content, these picks will carry you all the way. Let's meet the top dogs. First, leading the pack is none other than Jiyan. This guy isn't just good, he's a one-man army. With devastating single target and area of effect damage, Jiyan can bulldoze through mobs and bosses alike. His ultimate skill doesn't just deal damage, it yoinks smaller enemies into a cluster, giving you some impromptu crowd control. And thanks to the introduction of the Whimpering Waste Zone, Jiyan found a niche that boosted his value even further. He's the poster child for versatility. You want consistent DPS? Jiyan's got you. Next up, let's talk about Yinlin, the queen of sub damage and electro chaos. She's the dream sub DPS. Not only does she boost both electro and resonance liberation damage, but she also hurls electro coordinated attacks while she's chilling off field. This means she's helping your team constantly without demanding any spotlight. Yinlin is the reason Calcharo is finally relevant, and her utility keeps scaling with better team comps and endgame content. Honestly, she makes other sub-deeps look lazy. Now we have Changli, the fusion element powerhouse. She hits like a truck with her fully charged Forte circuit, and her ultimate doesn't just wipe the floor, it also gives her a sweet attack buff for even more pain. Technically, her outro skill allows her to function as a sub-DPS, but let's be real, benched Changli is wasted potential. This woman needs that field time, and if you give it to her, she'll carry your runs with style and explosions. Shangli Yao might not have as much hype, but don't let that fool you. He's a strong main damage dealer who brings utility through enemy slow debuffs and hits like a truck, especially when buffed properly. His strength heavily revolves around resonance liberation, so stacking any echoes, weapons or supports that buff that damage type will turn Xiangli Yao into a walking nuke. He's a bit technical, but extremely rewarding when played right. Let's talk about Rochia, the Havoc supporting menace. She brings grouping utility, buffs basic attack and Havoc damage, and even dishes out respectable numbers on her own. For endgame content where timing and AoE are everything, like Tower of Adversity, Rochia shines bright. The only catch? She's most effective when paired with a full Havoc team, so her flexibility takes a hit. But if you're building mono Havoc, she's basically a cheat code. Moving into explosive territory, we've got Lupa, the ultimate fusion team enabler. She's not here to carry on her own, she's here to make everyone else shine. With her in the party, mono fusion teams get a massive power boost. She's the missing puzzle piece for top tier fusion comps. Just don't expect her to slot into every lineup because she needs all three resonators to be fusion based to unlock her full potential. In the right setup though, absolute beast. And finally, say hello to Sanhua, the icy sub DPS with deadly precision. She buffs basic attack damage for a whopping 14 seconds to the next character that takes the field, making her the perfect lead-in for a powerful DPS rotation. Her own damage is nothing to sneeze at either, especially if you're nailing those heavy attacks to detonate her ice structures. She's all about smart play and timing, but if you master her rhythm, she brings serious value to your squad. That wraps up the S tier, but the story doesn't end here. With updates always on the horizon, who knows which characters might rise or fall next. The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Verena, Jinxie, Jeji, Shorekeeper, Camellia, Carlotta, Phoebe, Brant, Zani, Chiakona, and Cartafia. Welcome to the big leagues, the S+ tier, where legends are made and power ceilings are shattered. These are the characters that don't just perform, they dominate. Whether it's healing, support, raw damage, or completely breaking the meta, these units are so good that they warp team comps around them. If you're lucky enough to pull them, build them, and unleash them, you're in for a treat. Let's meet the gods of Wuthering Waves. First, we have Verena, the support that feels like she's doing everything at once. She heals your whole squad, buffs them, and throws out Spectro-based coordinated attacks while she's off-field. Sure, she might not give you flashy crit rate or crit damage boosts like Shorekeeper does, but she still adds considerable damage while keeping your team alive. Verena is the ultimate definition of comfort pick. Your team just feels better with her around. Next up is Jinxie, the Spectro goddess with multipliers so high enemies cry before they even spawn. Her skill hits like a meteor and her resonance liberation is practically a nuke. She's the perfect example of a main damage dealer who doesn't need fancy gimmicks to shine. Just big numbers, fast rotations, and satisfying booms. If you want raw power and clean clears, Jinxie's your girl. Let's not sleep on Jeji, the sub-damage dealer extraordinaire. Her kit buffs resonant skill damage and amplifies Glacio element damage, which makes her the best friend of both Jinxie and Carlotta. When your kit makes two top-tier characters even stronger, you don't just earn your spot in the meta, you cement it. Jeji is the gold standard for support utility in the current game. Shorekeeper is another support powerhouse, but instead of healing and chill vibes, she's here to buff you into the stratosphere. She grants critical rate buffs, amplifies damage, heals constantly, and even prevents knockdowns or full KOs. She's that mom friend who packs snacks and carries the squad. Whether it's a casual boss fight or high-stakes tower of adversity, Shorekeeper is the third slot you always want filled. Now, let's talk about Camellia, a havoc damage machine who dishes out long-reaching combos with sweeping area of effect dominance. What makes her even more accessible is the fact that her team is basically built for her. She's got a built-in sub-DPS option that makes her plug-and-play for havoc-focused squads. She hits hard, controls space, and needs very little babysitting. Enter Carlotta, your premier Glacio queen. She brings massive burst damage through her resonance skill, and when paired with Jeji, who boosts both that skill and Glacio damage, she becomes a literal snowstorm of destruction. When team synergy is this perfect, it's not even fair. Carlotta proves that with the right support, a main damage dealer can dominate even the toughest content. Phoebe is another Spectro powerhouse, but with a unique twist. She thrives when enemies are affected by Spectro Frazzle. Even without a dedicated support to buff her, Phoebe's personal damage nearly matches Jinxie's, which is wild. She can also pivot into a sub-DPS role, amplifying Frazzle effects and reducing enemy Spectro resistance. Now that Zani is out, Phoebe's confession mode finally has purpose. She's the ultimate Frazzle enabler. Brant is fusion support with a twist. He doesn't sacrifice his own power just to help the team. He converts energy recharge into attack, buffs the squad, and can hold his own as a sub-DPS. He works wonders with Changli, but even free-to-play teams that lean on basic attacks or resonance skills benefit from him. Brant is one of those characters that quietly boosts your damage across the board without demanding too much spotlight. Then we have Zani, the newest Spectro DPS monster who shines brightest in Frazzle-focused teams. She carves out her own lane separate from Jinxie, and when fully supported, her damage output can rival the best in the game. Plus, she has built-in synergy with Spectro Rover, meaning even players without Phoebe can still run a premium Zani setup. Flexible, powerful, and future-proof. Chiakona is an aero utility queen who can both buff her team and debuff enemies with ease. She applies Aero Erosion and Spectro Frazzle, meaning she fits into both Aero and Spectro comps, something very few characters can do. With the release of Cartafia, her kit now hits full synergy potential. She's not just good, she's essential for optimal Aero team play. And finally, let's talk about Cartafia, the undisputed Aero DPS queen. Her damage is off the charts, she can self-apply Aero Erosion, and she scales off her HP stat, making her both tanky and terrifying. She's completely overtaken Jaehyun as the top Aero DPS, and the craziest part, we're not even sure she's peaked yet. Her design is so efficient that she may sit on top of the Aero throne for a long time. These are the titans of Wuthering Waves, the ones that define the meta and make players build whole teams around them. If you've got even one of them, you're in for some smooth sailing, or a whole lot of one-shotting. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.